So what does commercial really mean? And let's really think about, what does it really mean? We hear that phrase, I need to be more commercial, or be seen to be more commercial, but what does it mean? And it's not about hitting your targets. So what does it really, really mean? So it I was often, when I was in practice as a learning and development person, being seen as really commercial. And it's because I always looked at the wider picture at the same time as I did the work for the client. So, that wider picture is thinking about, for example, is there a close relationship between doing this work and another potential client? Is it maybe a warm up for a larger piece of work? How does working on this matter impact other clients and their projects or matters? How does this work fit into the strategic aims of your team and firm? It's not just about going, oh, thank you very much for this piece of work, I'll crack on with it. It's about actually sitting back and thinking. But when you sit back and think, it's about being on the lookout for more work or the possibility of more work. So the way that the world has changed in the last 5 years is now that as a senior associate, senior manager, director, it's expected that you can win more work from your existing clients. That's not going to be good enough to get you to partner. It's about, at that level, that's almost what's expected now. So are you on the lookout for more work? Because a lot of us go, right, I've got some work, I'll get the work, I'll get it done within budget, job done, rather than actually taking that step back and going, can I build that relationship? So I become the first port of call that the client talks to. When you're the first point of call when the client talks to, you hear about the opportunities. So are you actually listening in for those opportunities? Are you thinking about the wider firm when you're having that conversation? Not just go, oh, there's a bit of tax work for me. Brilliant. I'll take that bit of tax work. Are you listening out for, oh, there's a potential audit lead there. There's a potential consulting lead there. There's a potential M&A lead there. How many referrals to other teams have you made in the last 6 months? How many times have you, if you've turned around to a partner or the lead relationship for a client and gone, I think there's a bit of more work here. This is what they were talking to me about. But also I see this a lot. Just put your hand up if you would be great at doing business development. If you'd be great at doing business development, if you didn't have to do all this client work. That is one of the big issues that we have. And whenever I'm working with someone, I can really see whether they are ready for partnership by how much business development they do and how they talk about business development. If it's something that just happens when they're quiet, I know they're not ready for business development. And so this is about not letting the day job get in the way of doing a bit of business development each day. And this is the point, is you'll often get it turned around where you're not thinking commercially enough because you're not looking out for it. And David's got this interesting perspective that commercial means putting yourself in the client's shoes and seeing their perspective. It's what's important to them. But we have to go beyond that a bit. Next thing is, we see a lot of, do you push back with partners and senior management when the budget for the job is perceived to be too low? And this is a tricky one. And we see it all the time, is that you go in and you realize the budget, say for the audit, is too low, and the partner's gone in and quoted it. But the problem is, you go in and try and do the best job you can do, but there isn't time for these little extras. So as a result, you don't have the time to do that, that really thinking the extra stuff through. And when difficult as it can be, challenging partners and senior managers when the fees are unlikely to be sufficient shows that commercial leadership. Are you also thinking about, right, how do we do this job in a better, simpler way? When I look at the business case for Big Four people, I almost always see, particularly tax, well, we've changed the business model so we can do it in a more innovative, better, simpler, cheaper way. How are you doing that? How are you really thinking through not just the work in front of you? Another thing about being commercial is, are you having the conversation with a client when the work goes out of scope? Or are you just doing it? Are you having that conversation when the bill needs to increase? Or are you just writing off the extra time? And we see this happen so often. Or I won't have that conversation. So you just write off the extra time. So you then have a conversation with your partner who goes, why have you written off so much time on this job? And this comes down to that feedback of being seen as uncommercial. And we've got to be, one of the things being commercial means is actually being prepared to have that conversation with clients when work goes out of scope, whether that's due to unplanned surprises. And of course, if you're quite junior on the team, you might have to, you would probably want to have a conversation with the lead relationship on the job before you do that. But also, just an additional note, how much you undervalue your own time by writing off your work. You are the expert. You've worked hard to try to get where you are to. But also, as David says, commercial means putting yourself in the client's shoes and seeing their perspective, which also means truly understanding how your firm makes money. As David has said, having the conversation about fees builds credibility with clients. Some of you are thinking, who is this David? He was a very, very senior member of BDO when I was there. He was on the management team. He was one of the most highly respected partners of when I was back there. 16 years ago, David. But understanding how your firm makes money is absolutely key, because you then get the context. So, where are the margins lowest or highest on a job? Do you know that? Are you routinely pushing stuff down to the more junior members of the team? Are you taking a conscious decision to work at a loss in the hope of a bigger piece of work? Can be a very successful strategy, but are you doing it too often? Do you actually know how your firm makes money? And as David says, business development is not about this, I've got to be pushy as salesperson. It's about having the conversations and giving to receive. As one of our Progress to Partner members said recently, he had a light bulb moment when he realized that business development wasn't about doing stuff flashy. He said it was about having regular conversations with clients and being helpful. He said, and it's amazing, I've turned around my ability to win work.